Okay, is everything working? Can we get everything working for once, please? Press one little button that's off. Jeez Louise. Okay, I did the social media thing. I did social media, and what else? People should be in and on their way. You're hearing an echo. Of course you're hearing an echo. Of course you are. How about that? Can you still hear an echo, Mike? Did the music drop off like crazy? We're gonna get this right. Can you hear the music in the background though, Mike? Mike? Music stopped. Great. Okay, we're gonna bring the echo back just really quick. Stand by. What am I not hitting? What button? This? Ooh, I can hear myself. How about that? Is that better? No more echo? Is that better with no echo? Yes? Say yes. Hey, no more echo and music. There we go. We can do it. We did it together. Okay. Okay. So what had happened was I had initially set up a scheduled stream using this streaming software that I use, but if you don't click this one specific box, it doesn't want to work the moment I hit go live. So can you believe it? Okay. What am I doing first? Well, first I'm going to say hi to everybody. How about that? Okay, here we go. And then I'm gonna get a chance to draw. Hello, Chauncey. Good evening. Padrino, good evening. How do you pronounce your name? Evgeny. I'm gonna mess that up. Forgive me. I appreciate your company. Thank you for being here. Daniel, how are you? Mr. Michael DiNicola, my closest and bestest friend. Dr. John Moore. Atomic Bulldog, how are you? Purple Smurf, the best kind of Smurf. IBI, how are you? Oh, look at that. A small crowd. A small and quiet crowd. Mr. John Devlin, good evening. How are you? Jorge, how are you? Raul, good evening. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining us. Okay. We're going to keep it nice and quiet. Nobody else can walk in here. You guys are in charge of standing by the door and letting the people that you know in. Otherwise, we're going to keep it to a small... Oh, hello, Mr. Skip Edwards. Like I said, I'm going to leave it to you guys to stand by the door and let the people that you know in. Otherwise, we're going to keep this into a nice and intimate crowd. Yes? I'm going to lower this from my ears. That music is super loud. I'm going to get this music stuff right, you guys. And when I do, whew, I got a couple things to talk to you guys about. And I'm glad that Eddie is in the chat, because I think it was Eddie's campaign that just, what are we drawing today? We're drawing a blank, Eddie. Strike Boy, how are you? It was Eddie's campaign that just fulfilled. Forgive me if it wasn't you, Eddie. But I remember Mr. Rob Arnold had almost had an emotional breakdown over your box. Your packaging as well as your box. Heyo. Right? Am I thinking of the right person? Correct me. My brain is always has a consistently fails me. I'm looking around because I'm looking for the stuff that I need to grab so that you and we all can look through the stuff that I got. Okay, so packing boxes now. Who was it with the cool box? Rob was in our Twitter chat talking about cool boxes and freaking out about it over stream the other day. And it gave me a moment of pause. No, it wasn't Dragon Rage. It was not Dragon Rage, for sure. It was a box that had like a good set of QC checkoffs, right? Eddie, was that you, right? Like your box had a very specific sort of presentation to it. A bunch of checkoffs on the box itself saying, hey, this is inside, and so on. Which Rob was just in love with that idea, and God bless him. Speaking of, where's Rob Arnold? Okay. Well, if we're going to talk about boxes, can I show you something that I got? Which I thought was a good idea at first. But then all of a sudden, I actually had an opportunity to experience it for myself. And I wasn't all that impressed by it. You guys are ready? Here, I'm gonna use a downward facing camera. Ready? Okay, here we go. Okay. So I got this thing. See that? I think this is the best way to sort of show this thing off. Right? And it is made by a company called... I threw away the thing in the trash. It is made by a company called AOIKTYE. Chinese. And you can tell because of the instructions, right? So I thought one of the things that I always had issues in regards to Procreate as an app being on the iPad Pro is because I was so used to the shortcut keys on my laptop / desktop for Photoshop that it became less intuitive whenever I was working on the iPad, right? Because I was used to having these keys over here, right? See this? Now, what has happened, and I don't know if you guys, for those of you who don't know how to, who've never experienced using Procreate before, they've got an incredibly intuitive user interface, and I think that's due to all of the years of R&Ding that they were doing with this particular app, but also it becomes that much more intuitive that the more that you use it. Okay, so I'm gonna turn this thing on, see if it works. Let's see. Did they just connect? Yeah. Okay. See that? Okay. Dude, that looks so... I got you one, Mike. I got one for you. Well, originally I had gotten it for Dave, but Dave was very ungrateful. He said, Mike, He said, Eric, I don't need your shit. Anyway, so conceptually, it's a cool idea, right? And by the way, let's talk first about is that typical when you're unboxing something to talk about that unboxing experience? It literally is nothing. It literally was like this box, right? This little packaging thing, it came in this little cellophane with a little seal at the end. This area had a USB to USB-C, USB Type-C. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. Okay, the build quality is pretty cheap. Wait, listen. Where's the? Hear that? Super plasticky. Now, the reason why I say it feels cheap is because whenever I pretty much exist in a really snooty Apple ecosystem, right? A Mac OS ecosystem, and this thing sounds really, really cheap. But it's all what you're in for. If you think about it, if you're going to be carrying this thing around with you, I don't know if you prefer that it be light, so that when it's in your system or when it's in your bag or whatever your travel pouch. Do you have travel pouches? If it's in your travel pouch, I guess it doesn't weigh all that much, and then ultimately it doesn't really impact its its performance. I just think like picking it up and it feels like an old school Casio calculator. It doesn't feel very good. Okay. Anyway, once you hook it up to the Bluetooth, it's a really easy setup. You just hold down this Bluetooth key right here. Can you guys see that? Okay. Focus, camera. Camera, focus. See that? So this USB thing right here, just hold that down until this red light above it starts to flash. You can find it in the USB, or you can find it in your Bluetooth settings on your iPad Pro. It connects, and there it goes. Hey, all right. Okay, so again, really, what it does is it's trying to mimic the keyboard experience that you would typically have if you were using either Clip Studio Paint or Photoshop. In my case, it's Photoshop. And it's really cool because all of the shortcuts are predetermined for you. So for instance, here is the pencil, right? Right, and you can it brings up it's one of two things. If you're already on the brush tool or the pencil tool, depending on how you consider it. If you're already on the pencil tool, you can hit it again and it brings up your entire menu, right? And you can select and blah, 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 right? This one is the eraser tool, right? And these are the ones that are most frequently used. And again, similar, if you're already on the eraser tool and you hit it one more time, it brings up the entire eraser palette, right? This one is sizing up the brush. This one is this one's sizing down the brush. This one's sizing up the brush, right? There's a shortcut for undo, and there is a shortcut for undoing the undo, which is basically a forward and back as far as its history is concerned. Right? There is a full screen button that gets rid of all the interface, right? So you just get the screen in and of itself minus the UI. There is so this is the kind of stuff that makes it convenient, right? So for instance, in order for me to find these adjustment layers, you kind of have to open up this, open up this menu in the upper left-hand corner, and then go down to find hue, saturation, color balance curves, and so on. Now with this thing, it just brings it up for you. See that? See how it brings up the color balance slider, right? See that? Just comes up. All right, that was 2 steps. This one is 1. Brings it all up by itself. All right, same thing with the hue, saturation, and balance. See that? This was the color balance, and this is the hue, saturation, balance slider. Right? This one brings up the layers. Right? All your layers come up. Now you still have to go in there and add. I don't know if there's a shortcut to automatically add a layer similar to Photoshop where you can just like control what have you, but that's what brings it up. This is the, what do you call it? In this case, they put a gear, but technically it correlates to this wrench icon. Same thing, is basically a settings, right? This one brings up your selection tool. Right here, it has a box, but technically it's this selection tool in the upper left-hand corner. Right? This one, what is this button? What am I pressing? I don't know what that button is. Okay, so this one brings up your color wheel or whatever color situation that you have. It's either a color wheel or this box. I think there's so whatever setting that you may have, whether it be the disc, whether it be classic, whether it be the color harmony one, the value one, and then whatever built-in palette. So yeah, I might typically go with classics, but that's what that button sets up. This one brings up your selection, right? So if I wanted to come in here, select the whole thing, it brings up the selection depending on if you have it uniform, distort, warp, and so on, right? This brings up the eye. There's an eye drop tool, I think. I don't remember if I'm using this correctly. And this final one, this one that kind of looks like a shift tab or a turn tab, is the quick menu. Technically, that you can program that quick menu to be anywhere, right? So basically, that quick menu, all that does is you can pre-program these 1, 2, 6 buttons to have a specific function, right? So you can hold it down, and now you can set that button to paint. This one is no action, no action. So basically, what makes this button really super easy is, and you can literally just strip this thing with one button, which is the quick menu. You can hit the button like this, and over here, I'll hold it down, and I'll say like, whatever. Pick, paste. Basically, this thing will help to mimic in 6 buttons the 12 or so, 15 or so buttons that are on the pad. Right? Does that make sense? Now the control, there's a control button here, but I haven't memorized what it says yet. We can look together more. Anybody know Chinese? Oh, you flip it over, and it's in American, you guys. So there's a control, copy, and paste. But technically it says control, copy, and past. Control, copy, and past, you guys. I don't know if that's like beginner level stuff or like expert level. Control, copy, and past. Control, copy, and paste. Cool. That's what I got. The charge is in this upper left-hand corner here, and it charges via that USB-C cord. Actually, no, that's a mini USB, it looks like. That's how it gets that charge. I don't know what this corner is for. I've looked, and I don't know what the heck goes in that corner. Your hopes and dreams, I figure. There you go. I don't know how much this thing is, but I'm sending one to my buddy Mike, and I don't know if I'm ever going to use this. So maybe we can like give it away or something. Because honestly, I'm like, I don't know the functionality of it. It just sits off over here in one less thing. I've gotten so used to just putzing around with Procreate, just using the pinch and zoom, and the added extra thing over here. Does it make it more ergonomically? Does it give you that ergonomics of like being able to sit with your arm off to the side as opposed to always having it in front of you? I don't know. I'm unconvinced. I'm gonna give it another, maybe a week, 2 tops, and then we're gonna end up giving this away because I don't really feel like it's making my situation any faster. It's not that I'm unimpressed, it's just I'm realizing I may be adding one more step into the mix that's not really all that necessary. Does that make sense to you guys? I mean, it's neat, but it's not the thing that it was not the revolutionary thing that I thought it would be. I got 2. Got one for myself, got one for Mike Dave, but I'm gonna send it out to Mike. Because Dave's in Canada, and I don't want to pay to send this stuff to. I like Dave, and no, actually I love Dave, but the moment I have to send something through him via post, I like Dave. I downgrade it to like. I don't love him that much. Okay. Oh, that was so stupid. Okay, next thing. I'm gonna get rid of this thing. Oh wait, let me catch up with chat really quick. Ready? Where am I? Where am I? Alright, you got to see it, right? Yeah, I like heavier weight electronics. Me too, man. I feel like it's not sitting well, and you need to sort of put a weight. Is that what that corner thing is for? You think it's to like a shove a weight in there? The little part right here. So look, it's an empty. Can you see that? Is it autofocusing? Please autofocus. Hello, camera. Anyway, there's an empty thing in there. I don't know if you can just shove a weight in there, but that doesn't make any sense. Anyway, not heavy enough for me. Go get a room, you guys. Seriously. Good evening, Belle. How are you? You're digging this new tool, or one's headed your way, buddy boy. It's on its way. How do you pronounce that? Hello. Kenise? Hello, good evening. I'm sorry for butchering your name if I did. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your company. Now, this is an interesting tool, says Strike Boy. It is. It's interesting, quote unquote. Andrew Taz, hello, good evening. How are you? thank you for being here. Hockey, how are you, man? Thank you for being here. Travel Quake, hi. How many inches is this iPad? A functional amount of inches. I'll have you know. I don't know. It's like 12 by something. Look, I got a handy dandy measuring guide on this here. On this here like gridded mat. 10 by something. 11. I don't know. The bigger one. Okay, next thing. Mike, one is headed towards you. Thank you for bearing with me on that. The other thing I want to show you guys. Hey, by the way, is Tim Lim in my chat right now? Does he even check in with me anymore? Does he check in at all? This Tim Lim guy? Oh, by the way, guys, if you could do me a great, huge favor, if you can post on your social media that I'm live. I don't know if people are aware because I posted something earlier on my social media and then it did not immediately go through because again I didn't check off an appropriate box for it to go immediately live using that old post. So if you guys could do me the great big favor of posting that I'm live and forwarding people here, I'd really appreciate it. Okay. Knees. Okay. Hey man, how are you? Thank you for that correction. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Okay, speaking of boxes, this is what I actively taped and did things so that I don't accidentally get doxxed. But I hope that's not legible at all. Anyway, and if it is legible, send me cake. Okay, here we go. This is what Tim Lim and Iconic Comics sent me as a care package. All right. Pretty nice. I already cut the tape already. I was going to wait for the whole big sort of unboxing thing, but I'd come to realize that they may have slipped something in there that they did not want the general public to see, so I just took a peek and I saved the actual unwrapping of stuff for when I went live. But anyway, Tim asked me to go take a look. I thought I'd take a look while I'm streaming, so here we go. Look at this fancy. Just thank you. Can you guys see that all right? Thank you very much. You know, this Tim Lim guy really understands his brand. Use coupon code CommonCore to receive $5 off at checkout. Anybody want to use coupon code CommonCore? Okay. There it goes. You're going to get a little bit of ASMR stream from me. Look at that. That's volume 1 of Common America. Is there something questionable in this book? Tim, are you in chat? Is this bad? I dig it. I'm digging I was about to say build quality. Like this was a computer. Like this was a MacBook Pro. But look at that. That is great. Okay, the reason why I specifically asked for these books, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. The reason why I specifically asked for these books from Iconic, it's because I wanted to, holy mackerel, what's in this? Jeez Louise, the production value of that is really, really high. There's a spot gloss on here that is obnoxiously, and I mean that in the best complimentary way possible, but there's a spot gloss, should be in the middle of this camera here. There's a spot gloss on here that is like, there is really good relief, you know what I mean? Like it really pops out. Look at that. Like a blind person could understand what this shape is. Whew. Fancy on the back. ISBN number, the whole bit. This is $60? Get out of here. Is it? I mean, it feels like it should be. Look at that. That's kind of neat. It's got like gold. I mean, they went to town on this thing. They may have gone overboard of exactly how much they went to town on this thing. But that's nice. Anyway. Oh, by the way, if you didn't catch the title, it's called Soul Finding. It's by Doug Ernst, Matthew Weldon, Brett R. Smith. Can you imagine if there were multiple Brett Smiths to the point where, is that R or A? I can't tell. Oh my God, I think it's R. Can you imagine if in the history or in current modern comics, there's more than one Breath Smith, to the point where you have to be compelled to use your middle initial. Anyway. A patch. I think that's it. That was my order slip at the bottom there. Don't look. Look at that. Well, that's nice. Look how fancy it is. National Waifu Association. I'm sending this to you, Dave Tran. This is right up your alley. You can sew it right onto your waifu pillow, and it'll feel really, really good. The texture feels really nice to lay your face on. So thank you so much, Iconic. Thank you so much, Tim. Now the reason why I'm gonna switch this away from my desk now. Can we do this? Can we do that? Okay. The reason why I asked for that very specific set of books from Iconic is because the printer that I'm going to be reaching out to, or that I have reached out to, cited those specific books as examples of what Arc Athena is going to look like once it hits, once we get it printed out. So I wanted to have a point of reference and say like, oh, exactly like this. And they said, actually, I think we know exactly what you're looking for, and it looks like this. And there are those books. So Arc Athena is going to end up looking like that. Is that cool? And that's why I have them. Nonetheless, thank you so much, Iconic. Thank you so much, Tim Lim. Thank you so much, Doug Ernst. I really, really appreciate it. We'll catch up with chat really quick. You just shared the video on your Twitter. Do you get a cookie? An emotional cookie? How's it going, William? How are you? Rabdos, how are you? It is pretty sweet, Eddie. Thank you so much for that. Box art looks art. Yeah, well, I think it's Tim putting his best foot forward. I haven't read, full disclosure, I haven't read enough of Tim's work to understand which one of those in the whole plethora of styles that I saw in that box, which one is indicative of his, But I'm going to get to it just as soon as I can, because I'm starting to read a lot of these books that are starting to come in by way of my support as a backer. So I'm starting to read them and seeing exactly what's out there, seeing exactly what people are putting forth as far as their offering is concerned. I've got a comment. I've got something to say about that. Stand by. Great cover on that box. It is. Absolutely. That cover is incredible. The build quality, again, like it's a MacBook Pro, is pretty freaking awesome. Shop Tim's work here. That's right. Thank you, Belle. Common America is like somehow wholesome and sexy. Okay, so here's the thing, and this is not, and because Eddie is in chat, I don't want it to be like, hey, I'm pointing at Eddie and saying like, oh man, this is throwing any kind of shade at you. But here's a concern of mine when we are getting hung up on a box, right? Bear with me. By the way, Eddie, let me be clear. This is not aimed towards you. This is aimed generally towards the concept of box hype. Okay. And by the way, I want your guys' feedback on this. If there's something that you guys are like, Eric, maybe this is a perspective that you're not seeing, yada, yada, yada. I'd love to hear any and all of it. Okay, so in regards to the box, I think the box is just like another part of what it means as a backer or as a creator and as a creative, as a person who's putting together these projects. What you're trying to do, especially when you have an influx of support from your backers or your supporters, however you want to define them, when you have an influx of support by way of money, you want to pour it right back into the project to make sure that they are getting the best kind of quality, right? Like they're effectively getting their money's worth. Like I've heard that thrown around a bunch of times. Like, oh man, when you get this thing, it's really gonna feel like you got your money's worth. I believe in that, right? I understand the benefit of that. It's almost like, oh yeah, you as a backer can see where your money is going, where your support is going, and it's going right back into the product, which then ends up back into your hands. And to a degree, you can be proud of being part of making that, you can be proud of helping that thing come to fruition. Makes total sense to me. But, and this is the big one, at the end of the day, all the bonuses, and again, I appreciate your guys' feedback on this, but at the end of the day, all the bonuses, the presentation of the box, the little bells and whistles, the patch, the little, what was that, 5%? I can't remember, $5 off. The $5 off, what do you call it? Discount card, whatever it is that you end up putting in your campaign. I genuinely believe in the tiering system that is cake. I'll use cake because I really, really love cake. In the tiering that is cake, that should just be the icing. That should just be all the little things on the side, the little flour that's made out of, what's the stuff that they make flowers with out of cake? Like frosting? No, that's something else. Anyway, like all of that is just the extra. But at the end of the day, you still have to make a good book, right? And I'll tell you about a book without mentioning its title, because I don't think that's right. I just got a book recently that got well, maybe it didn't go to the extent of the hype of this thing, but it was a book, it got hype, it got like, what's the best, like, everybody's campaigns has like a certain trailer that's associated with it. Everybody's campaign has like, all the spot UV or like foil or whatever have you, like all the little bells and whistles. And typically I don't order like the bells and whistles stuff, because I'm a firm believer in that. I want to be able to support you, but I want to be able to support you in a fashion that is specifically about the product and not about the bells and whistles. Does that make sense? And I was like, I read through the book, and it was the most underwhelming thing I'd ever read. And this is the reason why I'm not gonna say the title of the book, but I understand that it's become so much easier to me. And by the way, I'm a little bit divided on my perspective of this, and because I'm a huge supporter of, like, dude, if you have the means to go and put out your own product, something that you're super passionate about and something that would never see the light of day in mainstream publishing, I'm all for you putting that book out and saying like, hey, here are my efforts. But understand that thing that you did to put it out also has what I would think, if not a little consequence, a profound consequence on your brand as a creator. I guess to put it simply, just like all of the extra, right? If you don't know the fundamentals of what it means to write, script, draw, color, letter, whatever it is, put a book together so it is the most professional version of that offering, that box doesn't fucking matter, right? That extra, that awesome, whatever. I'm trying to think of all of the hype things that people use, to bring people's attention to their books, right? Like, if you cannot deliver on the fundamental thing that is the actual body of the cake, if that cake tastes like shit, the box and the patch and the folded posters and everything else, it doesn't matter. And this is what I mean when I'm like, of course you should put this book together, because you're going to learn a lot in just trying to put a book together, whether it be a one-off or a mini-series, what have you. Like, as soon as you put it out, my hope is that you're like, how do I get better at this for the next time? But here's the thing. If you don't do it well the first time, I believe that there is a direct correlation on whether or not you get to do it again the second time. Because people are going to look at that first product and go like, why would I invest in this again? Independent of the hype. Obviously, there's communities out there who are happy to go and support you for whatever product that you decide to put up. I'm all for that. This is not speaking towards a community, but in a community in which they are asking for a high level of performance and delivery. And what I mean by that is in the final product itself. If you are not delivering the foundational thing that they're supporting you for, I'll speak for myself. I don't know if I can speak for everybody else. I am hesitant to go and support that thing again in its second offering. If you have like a book that has like to be continued at the next, or even if you have a brand new project that doesn't have anything to do with that first thing that you made available to me, I start to question. I immediately go like, I'm not gonna do that again. Similar to like any movie that, from a director that I don't have or a script writer or a franchise that didn't land me the first time. Like, I'm hesitant to, I'm hesitant to go and support that thing again. I actually wait now. I end up waiting until much, much later to go support it. So what does it all mean? To me, you really have to take stock on how well you can do things so that it represents you and your brand well. Really be vicious about the things that you're able to do, because it does impact you some way, somehow. Right? Just because you're like, the circle of people don't talk about it and criticize it. Like this, it's weird. We are so easy to criticize mainstream publishing. I was talking to my friend offline. I said, does anybody ever criticize these crowdfunded books? Like, is there a channel out there that I can go and listen to as easily as I can go to other channels that criticize Marvel and DC books? But it seems like nobody criticizes this. Nobody puts on the same level of criticalness that they put a Spider-Man or a Batman through. Nobody goes like, whoa, from a story this doesn't work, from an art perspective this doesn't work, from a delivery standpoint this doesn't work. You know what I mean? I don't know if there's a channel out there. Let me go back to my original point. What I'm trying to say is, be really aware that just because you can print a book doesn't mean you're ready to do it. Okay? Of course you can. Of course you should. Of course you can. And when you do, there's opportunities to learn that way too. And this is what I mean when I'm like, not 100% convinced this will land correctly, so bear with me. If you can print a book and you do it anyway, my hope is that you learn as much off of it as possible. But quite possibly, damage done. People are going to look at that book, judge you based off of that one offering, and go like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to support Eric again. Or second, have enough self-awareness of where your strengths are, right? And then say, shit, I need to shore this. I need to get better at this before I get anywhere near printing again, or like even thinking about printing this out. Because my backers, and here's the part that I want to help highlight, my backers, my supporters, the people who are going to put money into this book, I owe them that professional courtesy to not want to get into this space, use their money, and release a suboptimal product. Independent of the box, independent of the patches, independent of the postcards, the trading cards, the posters, what have you, independent of that. I don't know. If you don't know that you are ready for that space, to be able to live up to the expectation of your backers, which is, I would hope, near the top, is delivering a really, really good story with really, really good art. If you don't have that level of self-awareness, it could come back to haunt you much later. Anyway, let me catch up with chat. Does any of that make sense, you guys? I got a lot of crowdfunded books with cool trinkets, but the book is very mint. Isn't that like, William, how do you feel about that? You crowdfund, these books are almost like, these items are like almost boutique items, right? Where my expectancy is not to sit there and be like, oh, how come you're charging so much for these books when it's not as good as mainstream? I'm not saying that at all. You are going to pay whatever it is that you're going to end up paying for. It obviously comes from a very good place of like, I want to support these books. I want to give these creators as much of my support as possible in financial terms. And then you get the product and you get all the other stuff that comes along with it. But is it clear to you after that first reading that it's like, whoa, this creator, as much tenacity and as much work as they put into making this product, it's clear that this thing is not ready for, I don't know, I don't want to say ready, but it's like this thing could use a little bit more polish. What do you think, William? Marzipan. Oh, Marzipan, the thing in the cake. Right. Gotcha. Hello, John Moore. How are you? Good evening. Hello, John. Jasper Plan 9. How are you? Thank you for being here. Appreciate your company. No offense taken. I did this box to help me brand myself as someone with no artistic talent. This was my contribution to my backers. It cost them nothing extra. If I could draw, I'd draw more pages. I get it. I get it. Oh, Jules, good evening. Juliana is the person that's doing all the heavy lifting for Arc Athena. Before I jump on this topic, I just want to thank Jules so much for dealing with an asshole like me. I am astounded by the amount of patience that this guy shows me at any given week whenever he turns the page. I bet you, when Jules sends a page to me to sign off on, he must hold his breath. Because I don't know if I've ever done a version where it was easy for him, where he's turning a page and I was just like, yep, out the door, that's good to go. Oftentimes I'm like, oh, let's add this, let's add this, let's add this. And the best part about this guy who has an immediate seat on the bus to sainthood, is that he never backs down. He never says, man, Eric, I've been spending an awful lot of time on this page and I need to move on to the next one, yada, yada, yada. Oftentimes it's me having to make that call to say, hey, Jules, let's just move on. We got 200 some odd pages to go still. If you have time near the end, come back and touch things up. And he's the guy that is like, I'll come back and touch things up. Point being, thank you so much, Jules, for having patience with me. Thank you so much for being so committed to the project and dedicated to making this thing look as pretty as it has been looking. And here's the 200 more pages, buddy. Take care of yourself, take care of your health. We have 200 more pages. Don't leave me. Thanks for being here, dude. Sweet Tooth, how are you? Good evening. Fuck, you're late. It's all right. I was just talking about books that I'm getting that were awesome by way of its presentation to its backers, right? All the little stickers, all the stuff that comes with it, the +1, the +10s, right? But when it comes down to it, reading the book in and of itself, it was clear to me, and this is somewhat subjective, somewhat objective, that person, that creator, was definitely like that needed more polish. And that breaks my heart because, in a way, if I hold a mirror to myself, that's one of my bigger fears, is that I do all of these things that are like cool and I think, oh, that's kind of neat. I'm really super into that by way of thematic for my project. But then somebody reads the book and then they go like, oh, dude, this is not fun to look at, or this is not fun to look at, this is not fun to read. Basically, I hope I captured that somehow. Riot Press Productions, hello, how are you, man? Thank you for being here, thank you for joining me, thank you for joining us. If I could only afford so many pages without going over budget. Also, the box was shown well after my book was shown. I'm a construction worker who makes comics. I do it till I don't want to anymore. That's awesome. I fully support that concept. Thank you. That's amazing. Thank you for setting an example. That's a very, very high bar that you've set up with that box, man. Only way to get better is to continue doing it. I'm into it. Substance over flush. On that note, Starblades is trash. Is Starblades trash? What'd you guys think? For the record, also, I never touted the box as amazing. It's just a box. I think, and I'll tell you, I'm not diminishing that box, dude. Let me be clear. The thought that went behind it, not just in the way that you present it to your backers and to the supporters, that everything that they ordered is accounted for. There is a sort of a signature that reflects the person who went and fulfilled it, but most importantly, the branding that's behind that concept. I can't say anything bad. That's brilliant. That's really, really super smart. So I want to be clear about that. Also, if there are any backers here of Sovereign Wolf, I would love honest feedback. That's awesome. That's really, really cool, man. My book was self-funded well before the campaign went live. I made no profit. Right on. Dex Sean, how are you? How is my day going? My day went well. Full of work-related things. Sat in a bunch of different sort of meetings, trying to sync up a handful of teams, a handful of products, and now I'm here hanging out with you. So it's winding down to be the best version possible. Dojo, how are you? Graham Nolan's Chinu or Tucci sheet are perfect examples of what a $25 book should look like. Signature, square bound, premium paper, spot varnish, bookmark, pretty lean but premium quality. And does it deliver on the story though? You know what I mean, Jasper? Like at its most fundamental, does it deliver on story? Right? Did it Did it set up an expectation with you and you went, that feels good, I'll come back for another, right? Asir, how are you? Good evening. Thank you for being here. I didn't see your name earlier. I'm thinking that you just walked in. You knew the secret handshake to get through the front door. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your company. It depends. Sometimes I back things that I know are very amateur, and I know it, and they know it, and they tout themselves as good or better than mainstream. I'm very critical. That's fair. That's totally fair. So your support, your backing money goes into. Wait, I can't quite understand why you would back something that you've identified as amateur, less than what they've identified for themselves. That puzzles me a little bit, because I'm like, the consumer side of me looks at something, we just took a look at that keyboard, and I was like, if I had known it looked and felt like this for the kind of money that I'm paying for it, it would have given me another moment to think about it, right? Not to say I wouldn't have bought it, but it definitely would have given me like, this is not the kind of product that I would buy, because just on weight and build quality alone. Hello, Kazuto. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening for me. I don't know where you are in the world, but hello, greetings. Eric, in your opinion, who's the best comic artist today? Shit. Best working comic artist today. I talk him up a lot in most recent times because I think he can carry a franchise, but everybody's a kid to me because I'm like 75 years old. But Pepe Larraz carries franchises, right? And before him, Olivier Copier, yeah. And before him, I thought that Jerome Pena were those guys are beasts. And the fact that Marvel doesn't back up a Brinks truck into their garage and say, don't ever leave. Please help us get out from the doldrums of underwhelming artwork that don't represent our IP. Please help us establish what good looks like for our comics. The fact that they don't do that and worship at the altar of each and every single one of those artists is a fucking missed opportunity. Eric, you are not an asshole, bro. I understand you and all the creators that I'm proud to work with is like your baby. That's why you guys are so picky. Don't worry about that. I'm also an ass. I'm a jerk. You can ask John and you can ask Mike in chat of how specific I am when it comes to the stuff that I'm working in. I'm just a jerk art director. I'm always willing to push myself further to match all your expectations. And that's the thing. I think a muscle that I have tried to do my very best to help cultivate within myself is to hold you up to the expectation that you've set up for yourself. Before in the past, in my head, I'd be like, how come you're not reading my mind, Jules? Which is awful, which is an immediate invitation to have you fail at the job that you're supposed to be doing. There's a reason why you and I are working with each other, and it's because I really love your work. I have a huge opinion of how the level of quality and then your level of output, and I trust it, right? So what I need, the best thing that I can do is to hold you accountable to the work that you produced. And then when it dips below that, I go, hey man, it's no longer me that's setting the standard, it's you. You set it for yourself, right? So I go like, dude, see these, and I've done this with you before, and disclosure to chat, like, there's plenty of times when Jules will turn in a page and then I go like, hey dude, like this. And I point him to his own work and go like, see, you've done it already. Like, and I circle it, or like we discuss it a little bit via via Discord. And so I think that's the most effective way of helping to art direct somebody, right? If not the only way, I think it's the winner near the top, most effective way is to say, dude, you did this already and it's over here. Do it again here, but make it so that it fits the scene or it fits the situation. Contextualize it in such a way. And I think you have you have set such a high bar for yourself that anytime I come back and look at a page, I'm literally looking at it with the lens that you have put on my eyes to go like, what did Jules do before, and why does this look off based on that point of reference? Does that make sense? So there, and then there's other things. There's like, add like a blur effect or add blue, or you know what I mean, like little things like that. Those are the ones where I think those are easy enough to accommodate. But when it's something like like a pretty big thing, I go like, dude, you did it on page 15. Pepe Larraz. That's right. Yeah, man. Fucking awesome. And that guy is still getting better. Still getting better. I think the best storyline in CG is Johnny Phantasm. That's awesome. That is awesome. I hope to one day be able to read that book. There are plenty of books that come across my, and this is across this fills the entire gamut between Kickstarter stuff and Indiegogo stuff, where I'm like, I want to invest in that book, right? The heartbreaking thing, and I know there's no way around this, so I'm not putting down people who are trying to make ends meet when they're not doing the comic book hustle, when they're not doing the self-publishing hustle, is that sometimes I support something I am frothing at the mouth to get my hands on it, and then it's like 8 months later and I don't see it. You know, I'm like, shit, I've completely forgot about this, and I can't stay hyped up over something that's 8 months old. I don't, short of maybe Christmas, like leading into the holidays. But a book in and of itself, I lose my enthusiasm. I'm sorry, but that's exactly what happens to me. Yeah, Pepe is definitely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I agree, Jasper, about She and Chinulia. Okay, I will do my very best to pick that up, or at least find a way to do so. RB Silva did an amazing job on... Did the other people say that they say like the short-term thing for that is Hawksbox? What a bunch of dummies. It sounds so weird. Anyway, the reason why I appreciated RB Silva less is because when I'm currently reading House of X, right? Is because he is butted up against Pepe Larraz in the what do you call it book that I have in the Kindle copy that I have, the Kindle trade paperback that I'm reading that series in, right? They are, and I didn't even know. I was like, who is this person that's filling in for him? Well, I was wrong. You know, it wasn't that they were doing issues back to back to back with each other. There were two different things happening in parallel, right? But when you put, it's like, oh gosh, people who may not pick up on sports analogies. Scottie Pippen is amazing, right? Like Scottie Pippen, I believe, is historically, and there's a reason why he's like, you know, NBA's 50 greatest of all time, right? One of the best small forwards, power forwards, handling the ball up and down the court. One of the best defenders, right? Had so much career growth in regards to his career. Got so much better as he went along. Got stronger. Got smarter. Made his teammates better. He was just next to Michael Jordan, right? And I know that's a lot to live up to in regards to that RB Silva / Pepe Larraz comparison, but you get what you get what I'm saying, right? In House of X, Powers of X, is it Powers of 10? Powers of X? That's stupid. Anyway, like, independent of Larraz, I am sure Silva is amazing, but when you team them up, when you butt them up together like that, I prefer the other guy. Alfred Doodle, hello, good evening, thank you for being here. How are you? Back, had to step away briefly. Michael Dinicola, please recap everything today. Just randomly calling people out in chat, dude. It's kind of awesome. I'll send you one, Eric. Thank you so much. I don't want to become like an independent. I was just talking to somebody offline about this. I'm like, it's unfortunate that I am not a independent comic book publisher critic, because I'm so passionate about reading these books that I back, and it's less about the price. Like, I never look at the $25 and be like, how dare you under-deliver based on a $25 price tag. I don't think of it that way. I just think of it as an offering and how it reflects on you as an artist and your brand. And if I sit there and read it and go like, wow, I really love this. I understand right off the bat what you're trying to go for. I understand the themes that's happening in your book, right? The sort of pastiche that you put wrapped around it. Like sometimes maybe it's a tribute to this, it's a tribute to, like Thundercats or some shit like that. Like, oh, it's a tribute to like Saturday morning cartoons, or it's a tribute to like, the way, like grindhouse movies. Like, I get it. It's really well done, and it sets the stage for me to appreciate it even more. Like, I love talking about the nuts and bolts of putting together a project like that. But this one stinker that I just got the other day, I want to be able to say, like, this is gonna hurt you more than it helps you, right? You're gonna learn an awful lot about this. You're gonna learn about the entire process of making these books, and that experience, you can't put a dollar symbol on, because you get to sort of experience what that's like to go into fulfillment, to run a campaign, to like deliver to your backers and to your supporters. But they're gonna get that book and be like, yeah, man, I appreciate your type of approach. Thank you. Yeah, dude. Thank you for dealing with me. I appreciate that. Filipino master race. I think you meant Filipino, master race. The Last Dance doc series on Netflix is great. I'm from Detroit, bad boys forever. Right on, man. So in your case, who would it be, Jasper? If Pepe Le Rose is Isaiah Thomas, then is the other guy Joe Dumars, is the other guy Bill Laimbeer. That's my what do you call it, by the way? That's my era of basketball. Joe Dumars, Bill Laimbeer. Who else was on that team? John Sally, Dennis Rodman. Is that the starting five? Right? James Edwards, is that the center? Anyway. You're doing fine. Thank you for being here, man. Thank you for your company. Because Amor, I thought you were Brazilian. Ah, right on. I like Pepe's stuff on X of Swords too. Yeah, that's the other one. It's like, I read that because John Amor, who I'm going to blame, and I'm going to just send him the bill for this, he was like, dude, you've got to read Pepe Le Rose's stuff. I'm like, sweet. What's out right now that is Pepe Le Rose's stuff? And it happens to be X of Swords. And I read that story, and that is some underwhelming shit. I'm a brother on a budget. Price is a factor for sure. But I think it's kind of like by way of crowdfunding. There's a premium. There's a price that you pay because you know you're getting a premium product, and you know it's more boutique, so you're not going to sit there and like compare it to mainstream, right? But you are going to try to get the best value for your dollar, and you would hope that value comes by way of your level of entertainment, right? You would be John Dumars, right on. Laimbeer, okay, I get it. Everybody knows the Detroit Pistons. Awesome. We all have a kinship of that era of basketball. One thing crowdfunding has that's weird is that bad books don't get called out enough. I think it has to do with people wanting to be part of the success since they paid that premium. Yeah, man. Yeah. And I don't know why crowdfunding books are immune from criticism. You don't have to be an asshole about it, you know? Like, you don't have to go through the shenanigans of like burning it or anything like that, or throwing it out like a 12-story window. But certainly you can sit there and go like, this is why I don't think this works, you know? This is why I don't know what the average book page count is for crowdfunding. This is why for 64 pages, this doesn't feel like it's being set up for success as a reader. Like, I'm not into it because whatever. I think also, and John and Michael Nicole can attest to this. Like, I'm a real big jerk when I'm deconstructing what the story means and how you set up a narrative. You know, there's a YouTube channel that I watch. It's called Filmeto, Filmeto, and he watches a lot of bad movies. But more importantly, what he does with those bad movies, he goes like, all the pieces are here, and here's what you do. He identifies what's missing. He identifies like all the things. There's like I know that means something to you because you're trying to tell the audience about it, but instead you could have done it like this and this movie would have flowed so much better, you know? And I love that guy, and I think at one point he had, when I was writing my my screenplay, I think he had a tier in his Patreon in which if you subscribe to it, you can send him your script and he'll go down through it and like work through it similar a similar way that he would work through like a pre-existing film and break down why things like that don't work. The most recent one that I caught, or I rewatched again, was the one with, who is that woman from, the Twilight series. But they basically did like an underwater aliens. It was fascinating, and I was watching that movie and thinking like, why is that not landing emotionally? And then Philmetta was like, because that's, this is why this doesn't make sense. This is why these characters don't have as much resonance as, and then he'll find an analog for why there's resonance with another character, like in another movie that was so much more successful in setting up these characters. And so yeah, I love breaking down story. I love understanding characters and motivations, and more importantly, I love looking through comics. And this is the most primo version of how I'm an asshole in regards to criticizing comics. If this is what you say in a bubble, right? Like if you say, I am, I can't think of a relevant piece of dialogue. You have killed my mother, and point is, if they, he or she, or it, fuck man, whatever the character identifies as. Anyway, if that character is feeling an emotional something, you'd better draw the shit out of that emotion. And this comic that I just read, again, I'll leave the title out. Just like I'm reading the bubble and I'm looking at the picture, and for whatever reason, there is like this weird emotional disconnect. You know what I mean? Like it looked like they were tracing off of a 3D model. And I was like, fuck. It is so disappointing to me because these are your characters. You should know how to draw somebody when they're angry, when they're shocked, when they're confused, when they're like, if you're gonna 3D trace something, isn't there a confuse button on like one of these little pads that you can press, like control confused, and then it'll like move the 3D model to your. I just don't understand. That is fundamental storytelling. When you're reading the script and go like, okay, how do I get it so that these characters emote? How do I get it so that when the guy, the person, the reader, the backer reads it, they understand, like I'm helping with my drawing the emotions that is being said in this bubble. And when you can't land that, I'm passionate about that. And I get upset about it because it's like, what the fuck are you doing? It's such a simple concept. You're so busy, like I feel like sometimes they're so busy trying to draw the pretty drawing and like rendering it and doing whatever else on top of it, right? Like they get lost at the most basic concept of what it means to draw something, right? Are you there to draw a pretty picture, or are you there to tell a story? You can do both, but if it's at all possible, opt for that second thing that I said. I've seen not so great art I have seen art that's not necessarily in the sort of thing that sparks my imagination, that gets me hyped up over art, right? But I know, when I'm looking at it, I'm like, Jesus Christ, that person knows how to draw somebody who is like toiling over something, like the wringing of the hands. I read 3 pages worth of just the driest, clumsiest, like delivery of information. What is that thing again? Why does that word keep escaping me? John, what's it called? Filmetto, I think, John. Filmeto. Filmetto. Or Filmento, Mento. Anyway. I'm reading this thing, and I'm looking over to the character. I'm like, this is the best way you can deliver dialogue? Imagine if in a movie, or imagine if in real, like any storytelling, I'm like the info dumping for like 6 like big bubbles, you know? I'm getting riled up about it because I hate it. I really, really fucking hate it. It's like info dumping for 3 pages and not doing anything to help the information that you're being given. Can you imagine if in the beginning of Lord of the Rings, that's a massive narrative dump. Yeah, exposition. Perfect, John. Thank you. Like, can you, like the beginning part of Lord of the Rings, especially the extended cut, right? It is such a huge information exposition dump. But can you imagine if it was just Galadriel looking at camera like this, speaking, panning on her, moving across her face, talking for 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, setting up this fucking world, you know? I'd be like, I'm out. I'm gonna turn this off now, or I'll just scrub to the part where the freaking elves and the dwarves show up. That's your job in a comic book, is not to be that stupid, right? It's to help the reader get involved and invested in the story that you're trying to tell. I hate that shit. And what's more important to me is that when, like, you know, and if I take a step back and hear what people are railing against in regards to mainstream comics, right? And they're like, that sucks and that character sucks and you're not doing that right. Why am I not invested in that character? And like you go turn around and do it yourself. What the fuck are you doing? Okay, let me get back to chat. You like X-Men. I like X-Men. I love X-Men. Arcathene is that X-Men tribute. I'm not a sports fan, but the Pistons and Red Wings were slaying when I was growing up. Dude, I in my heart, I dislike the Pistons because somebody told me to dislike the Pistons. Like I lived in LA for a while, and when Pistons came into town, and before the NBA got like, you know, straightened out the rules so that those guys couldn't basically mug people as they were trying to play. Like the other team that the Pistons were playing basketball. The Pistons were playing shoot 'em up. You know what I mean? Like they were playing the live action, what do you call it? Grand Theft Auto, and they were just smacking people. I was trained to dislike the Detroit Pistons, and most specifically Isaiah Thomas. Brendan Wallace, how are you? Good evening. Thank you for being here. For me, Jorge Jimenez is one of the best too. Oh yeah. If they were smart, DC would handcuff that guy with a 24 carat, 50-foot long gold platinum ball and chain, and say like, never leave here. Never leave here. We're gonna pay you to stay. Luke Longley was in the team. He's an Aussie. Luke Longley was not in the Detroit Pistons. He's a Chicago Bull, right? He never went to the Pistons. Correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry, Aki. If you know more than me, I'll defer to you. I could be wrong. Dave wanted to let you know he had to step away to clean his body with water. I don't like that information. You could have gone with this part. He's taking a shower. You could have gone with that. But instead, you did the other thing, and I don't like it. Oh yeah, Jorge Jimenez is a new golden child. He's amazing. I love his style. I love his proportion. Oh gosh, who did the Batman Catwoman book? Clayman? Is that Clayman? That guy's good too. That guy's awesome. As I wrote the review for Starblades, I wondered if I was being too hard and affecting people's view of me as a creator. How would it affect their view of you as a creator? Do you think they would have, like you were being too harsh or something? Bad books don't get called out is a show of professional courtesy, but different strokes. Oh, okay. Bad books that don't get called out is a show of professional courtesy. I think calling out, I think, is like this very broad term of like, let me think about that for a second. Because I think maybe we're defining calling out very differently. I'm not sure. Jimenez is great. Too bad I'm not interested in mainstream books anymore unless I already have a connection with the creator, for sure. I'm literally reading your review right now. B is too high. I see that we had the exact same critique of the expressions. Eric, what's the name of that YouTube channel? Filmento, John. Sorry, I think I answered this earlier. Him and his got better really fast and continues to get better. Yeah, I don't know where that guy's ceiling is artistically, craft-wise. It's pretty high, and I don't think he's anywhere near it. So he's gonna get so good so fast, and I hope for so long. You know, it's a drag when the panel emotion doesn't match the character's face, for sure. And that's a craft thing, right? Like, that is a craft concept that as an artist you have to be self-aware about. You have to look at the thing that you're drawing and go like, I don't think I'm capable of drawing the sad, or like like the difference between a sad person and an inconsolable person, and my script or my dialogue needs them to be inconsolable. I don't even know what that means, how to draw that, so I just draw sad, and you're like, that doesn't match, because like the face that you're drawing is a little bit sad or a little bit excited, a little bit angered, whatever it is, but your dialogue says they're either super ecstatic or, inconsolable in their grief, they're irate to the point of like stabbing somebody in the face, because sometimes those are the things that you need to lead your reader into the proper emotional space, and then they can understand why the characters are doing what they're doing. If you can't draw that, jeez, man. I'm digging James Stucco. I was impressed by your boy's review of Alien Dead Orbit. I've yet to pick it up. I just know that based on what I've seen, that guy pretty much draws everything. The mileage that guy draws at any given time on the books that he's worked on and the pages that he's worked on, I'm exhausted just looking at it, but I'll check it out for sure. Right. That term, exposition, keeps like escaping me. It escaped me for 3 days straight now. And Uncle Eric gets angry at you. I don't know. I'm a huge proponent of doing your job well and getting away from hype. Hype only gets you so far. Hype is a gameable concept. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can get hype and get people to get behind you just based on hype. But I would hope in this day and age, when people are so much more selective about the kind of project that they support, the kind of creators that they get behind, I would hope that hype runs out when you don't. Hype will eventually run out, and that I can only keep my fingers crossed that it has no longevity, because it's like Image Comics all over again, Hell yeah, Eric, I love the fight. Don't show, don't tell. Yeah, for the most part, or at least help the dialogue out. Help the fucking dialogue out as best as you can. And if you're writing your own book, please have somebody else with a critical eye who has training in the thing that you're trying, the story and that thing that you're trying to tell. Because different editors are good at different things. Like, I can't imagine giving an editor was Image Comics ever edited? Anyway, but these high impact, like I said, X-Men book, I can't imagine giving an X-Men run, like The Fall of the Mutants, and putting it into an editor from Vertigo, right? Like, I can't imagine giving it to them and being like, okay, land the themes in this, right? So you give it to an editor who knows what they're doing, who has an appreciation for the subject matter, maybe even some experience, but that's going to come at a cost, right? And then let them go through it with a fine-tooth comb and say, here's how you can plus this up. You may need to redraw this. You may need to add dialogue, whatever it is. But it's for the benefit of your own product. It's disappointing to me that people can't see the value of that. Not just the actual hiring, but the exercise of going through it and going like, dude, I am not ready for this shit. I'm still not fluent in English, so I'm sorry for some mistakes. Don't worry, man. I think I can sort of dissect what you're saying and get to the point of what you're getting at. Hopefully I'm capturing the spirit of it. So thank you for being here. I appreciate your company. Thank you for streaming very much. Little question, please. What brushes and pens do you use in Procreate? Great question. The number one brush that I use to ink is this thing called Dry Ink 1. And if you were to ask me whose brush that did I steal that from, I was stupid enough to sort of like put them inside this category that says Kinetic Comics, right? And these are the ones that get the most mileage out of me. I copy the brush, I duplicate the brush, and I move them into that subfolder. But I never remember to give credit to the people who have downloaded those brushes too. So that one, and then for the dry brush, I use this thing called Dry Noise 1. Again, who knows where I stole that from? Forgive me. Dave asked me to inform you he's now wife's. Nope. I don't like that. That's not necessary for me to know. I mean, I know he wanted you to inform me, but you could have literally been my editor or been his editor and sort of just like, maybe I won't tell Eric that. Okay, so what do I typically do during these streams? I typically talk to you about updates for Arc Athena, right? So let me do that really quick because I've already been, holy shit, I've been doing this for an hour and a half. Getting aggro for an hour and a half. Just playing devil's advocate, do you think your own visual library threshold plays into that? For example, things you watch, things you've read, experienced. If that creator falls short, continue. Just playing devil's advocate, do you think your own visual library threshold plays into that? Yes, 100%. 100%. And it's not even, I'm not even advocating that you, I mean, it'd be a real asshole move for me to be like, hey, draw things the way I would draw things. That's not what I'm getting at, right? It's identifying, and this is a really simple exercise, right? It's identifying what you want to accomplish with the narrative, how it's written in the script, and ultimately how it's translated into dialogue in the dialogue balloons. Realizing what you need to draw and somehow finding the facilities to draw that thing. Whether it be reference is so much easier to find now. You can literally go like, I need a sad screaming person. I remember this from a movie, that this is the expression, the composition, the whatever. Oh, by the way, that's the other one. I'm gonna get an aneurysm just thinking about it. I'm gonna calm down. Same comic book that I talked about earlier, that I'm being very, very super harsh, but also deliberately trying to be super vague on. As a comic book artist, you need to understand, you need to have a compositional shot selection library. Does that make sense? I don't know why this is so hard, because people watch movies. It's not like they just came out of the cave and they were like, I'm just gonna make a fucking comic book. Right? Go find a way to capture whatever emotion that you're trying to draw, not just in the actual pose or facial blah 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 nuances of a character, but also try to add a wide shot once in a while, because it means something to the story, right? Because if for nothing else, it changes your, it just gives you a different pace. It just gives you something else to look at as a reader and as a viewer or whatever, like whether it be animation or like comics. Can you just cut to a wide shot once in a great while? God, it's exhausting to basically get assaulted with a ton of different, 2 pages worth of exposition, and not once is it ever cut wide for me to understand, like, where are they flying to? Where are they driving to? What's happening? Give me a sense of space. Give me a sense of like the environment that they're in. Do it in such a way that I have an understanding on a subtextual level what these people are talking about. Oof. Again, these are the craft things that you need to. I believe it's critical for you to have in order to be like worth your salt as a comic book illustrator. And I'm not saying I have mastery in any and all of that, but in contrast to that thing that I just read, Hello, Roberto. Dry ink one is a standard Procreate brush. I love it. It's like a pencil. Yes. All of Arcathino is inked with that dry ink one. Honestly, I don't know where I got it from, but if it's built into Procreate, there you go. It is at your disposal if and when you decide to crank open Procreate again. And man, Eric really hated that book. Hate is strong. I don't hate a book. I think my passion comes out for that kind of stuff because I want books like that to succeed. Does that make any sense? I know I'm like tearing it down, but I want it to succeed so bad. I want it to succeed so bad because it helps. The more books like that succeed, the better it is for everyone else who wants to try it, because it sets a standard. You know what I'm getting at? Like if it's suddenly the thing that makes people go, it's especially in this crowdfunding space, right? Like in mainstream comics, I don't know what they're doing over there. It seems like chaos, but that's not my business, right? I'm not in that space. But when it comes to the crowdfunding space, I look at books like that and I go like, please do well, right? Because not only is it going to be good for you short term, but it's also going to be great for you long term. And ultimately, it helps to legitimize this space. It helps to legitimize this space for the kinds of stories that this thing is trying to tell, right? Because I think one of the things that crowdfunding gets bashed by still for no fucking good reason, and I don't understand where this comes from, but it persists, is that there's this cloud that hangs over it where it's like, oh, the reason why it's being crowdfunded is because, you know, it's not ready for mainstream, it's not ready for prime time, which is not true. It just means that mainstream is not the place that it needs to go, right? Plenty of books that fulfill that. As a matter of fact, next week I promise I'll come in here with a more cheery attitude with a book that I'm really super in love with, and I'll be able to talk about it directly. But instead, the creator takes a ding. Because when a book is bad, it's really obvious that it's bad, you know? And then in a way, and this is sort of like the fifth thing, the 10th thing that's most important, it sets up the wrong precedence for all the other books that could be good. You know what I mean? In as much as I rail on mainstream publishing for highlighting books that have all of these social agendas and accidentally diminishing books that are really, really good but don't have social agendas. You know, like in Marvel's publishing lineup, Perch goes through it every week, how many books, you know, Marvel puts out in a month in total. And I'm going to suspect out of the 50, 60 books that they release in a month, not all of them are like stupid agenda-led, you know, premises. There could be books that's in there that's really, really freaking awesome, but it gets, you know, overlooked because everybody's pointing at this other stupid thing that doesn't need any more air, you know, it just needs to be snuffed out as quickly as possible. Same thing with crowdfunding. In my opinion. That is such a dumb statement. I just backed Liam Sharp's art book and received the digital art book and received the digital version of Steve Rue's book. Physical is shipping soon. I don't get it. Jasper, did I miss something? What did I miss? Did I say something that you disagreed with? I'd like to know. In the plus column, the not ready for prime time statement. What did I say about the not ready for prime time? The crowdfunding thing not being ready for prime time. Absolutely right. That is a statement that doesn't come from a realistic place. They say it because it's an easy thing to explain why those things are happening independent of their comfortable mainstream. I get what you're saying. Yeah. Gotta tell you a funny story about that Liam Sharp art book. He's calling it Encore, the golden art of Liam Sharp. And somebody brought it to my attention that it's called Encore, and I had released more than that, maybe 10 years ago. I released a book called Encore, right? And they're like, dude, Liam Sharp has released this book called Encore. That's also an art book, a collection of his work. And I was like, and I was like, yeah, but my shit was like 10 years ago. It doesn't really matter. But as a courtesy to Liam, who I have a high level of respect for, he and I go back to Glenn Danzig days for Verotic. As a courtesy to Liam, I reached out to him and said, hey Liam, just as a heads up, first of all, congratulations on your art book, getting it funded. It seems incredibly successful. Congratulations on that. But just as a heads up, you can still find an art book of mine at Amazon called Encore, right? 10 years old, yada yada. I gave him the full context of it. And he messaged me back and he was like crestfallen. He was so like, holy shit, Eric, I'm so sorry. Hey, my thing is called, it's called Encore, the golden art of Liam. Like he was trying to explain that there's enough differences that it shouldn't be bad. And I was like, Liam, I don't care. Ultimately, what I care about is I want you to be successful, and I don't want anything to get in the way of that success. If there's any confusion between these two books, or I just be aware if somebody brings it up to you, don't, at least you're hearing it from me as opposed to somebody reaching out to you behind the scenes or whatever. I had a good laugh about it, but he's such a good sport, and I was just like, at the end of the day, man, this shit doesn't matter to me. Like my effort, my focus of my energy is going to Arcathena right now and not whatever, getting hung up on this thing that's 10 years old. Your thing is the most recent thing. Good luck to you. Congratulations to you. Go make more money, Did I work with Danzig, the greatest of all time? Yeah, I worked with Glenn. Really, really awesome dude. Can I draw? Okay, so I'd come to identify with a great council of a handful of people that I reach out to, and I always ask something like, I know a lot of these crowdfunding books are doing really, really well. They seem to have a really great playbook that they're pretty open about, right? And I can go to anybody, and they have been, those who have been open to me have been really broadly open, really kind, really giving with the information that they got in regards to their campaigns, their initiatives. At no point they're like, oh, I'm secretive about that, man, because that's my fucking secret sauce. No, anytime if I were to ask them, like, how much money did you make with X, Y, and Z? They're like, oh, like this, and this is how I spent it, and these are the things that I did instead of doing that. And you know what I mean? They're really open about their whole process. So I reach out to, there's a core group of people that I'm able to reach out to and say, like, what am I missing in this space? Because again, the playbook is there. What am I not having an opportunity to do? And they told me something that was pretty profound. And I never really thought about it because I was just so hung up with all of the things that make a crowdfunding effort work, not the least of which trying to deliver the pages ahead of time, not the least of which making sure that the printer is in place, not the least of which talking to fulfillment people who do it way better than I would on my own, trying to stuff boxes and making sure that all of the things are going out to the right people. I want to be able to reach out to people who do that exclusively, who have done it well, who have a track record of success, right? So I was like, what am I missing? And they're like, how much are you talking about the book? And I was like, what do you mean? Right? It's like, in more instances than not, there are, the missed opportunity is that nobody is talking about their characters in their book. They often It's often a secondary thing to the creators themselves. And I was like, right. and I believe what they mean by that is, amazing as you may be as a creator, amazing as you may be as an artist, as a writer, as a promoter, and all of those things that are necessary for crowdfunding campaigns, because obviously you're doing this on your own team. They want to buy into you because of they want to support your project because of who you are, and they can read through the camera, or they can watch through the screen the level of genuine that you are, and they're like, man, I really believe in that person, that individual. I find them to be funny, entertaining, controversial, what have you, right? At the end of the day, you still have to buy the book. And if the audience doesn't know enough about it, fueled and supplemented by your enthusiasm, then that's the space that you can go occupy. And I was like, right, I want that. So, between now and start of the campaign, I'm going to be doing pieces of art like this of the characters from Arc Athena, and then using it because there's a native function in Procreate that allows you to record the drawing strokes from start to finish, uploading that as a video, and me giving a voiceover of exactly who those characters are and how they fit into the story, and hopefully not going into spoilers territory, right? Similar to what I do on this stream, but now I can place that video, that was semi-well-produced video, on my YouTube channel and have it be evergreen. People can go back and visit it as many times as they want. Or people who are not often available for these streams, they will now have a library is not the right word, but you guys know what I'm talking about. They will have a resource by which they can go and be like, oh, that's a cool character, or that's a cool plot, or that's a cool blah, 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 and then get into it that way. And also use these pieces of art as promotional material by way of like trading cards or whatever it is that I end up giving away during the campaign. Does that make sense? So it kind of double dips in its function. One of Rob Arnold's tips is don't share where the money is being spent. Does he say that? I think it's maybe because I speak to Rob offline and behind the scenes that Rob has been pretty liberal with me exactly where the money is spent. Did I just blow that for Rob? Sorry. I just blow that shit up for Rob. I have like 15 to 20 minutes to draw. Okay, here we go. Main characters. Oh man, 15 minutes. Let's see if I can do it. See, look, I'm so used to this interface. Oh, by the way, the other thing that I'd forgotten in regards to this little doohickey, right? I don't know how many of you have the most recent version of the iPad Pro, and if you're experiencing this little weird glitch to it, but I don't know if you've ever been drawing on an iPad Pro, and next thing you know, right, the line suddenly goes screwy. Like it shoots off in a very specific direction as a straight line, right? And I was reading about that like crazy. I was like, what the fuck is causing that? Is it like a software issue, right? Where, there's like a touch sensitivity issue, or what am I doing wrong? And the best explanation that I can find for it is that it's a hardware issue. It's an iPad Pro issue, especially the most recent version. These new iPad Pros with a that's I don't know, 2018, 2020 version of it. Because in my previous unit, I never experienced those weird stray lines, right? Now, how do you prevent it from happening? Apparently, there's an electrical, this is how I read, so quote me up to a degree, I don't know if it's fact. There's an electrical discharge that's happening on the screen of the iPad Pro that's causing the interface between the screen top and the Apple Pencil to go bonkers. And I've read everything from like, oh, the screen protector is what's screwing it up, and yada yada. It's not true, because people cite the screen protectors that they use and don't use, more importantly, and it still happens to them. Now, the way you counteract this buildup of electricity or static charge is to consistently have your hand at the side of this metal bar of this iPad Pro. It's worked for me, right? The only time it's not worked for me is when I take my fingers off of it. Now, I inherently keep my hand at the side of the unit anyway to sort of manipulate the user interface. What I'm afraid of once I start using that shortcut key or that keyboard is now my hand is off, my free hand, my right hand, because I'm left-handed. My free hand is now off of the iPad Pro and thus no longer causing that static to ground that static discharge. Does that make sense? One more concern, if any of you are interested in getting it. Okay, here we go. Don't draw, just talk about Danzig. Oh man, that is a stream in and of itself. In the time that I spent with Glenn, he was Danzig an asshole? There are a million stories. Danzig was never an asshole to me. He took care of me. You know, he was. I'll tell one story. I remember when we went to a small West Coast Midwest signing for the books that I was doing to him, or books that I was doing for him for Verotic. And I knew of Glenn. By the way, this is going to lead me right into signing off without having to draw a single thing tonight. I knew of Glenn through reputation alone. You know, like I never listened to the Misfits. I didn't listen to any of the records that he has when he was under the American label. I knew him as my publisher and being a big nerd for like comics and anime, especially, and manga, especially the kind that had like tentacle peni inside of them, you know, like Devilman, that kind of. As a matter of fact, it's obvious where the influence, the inspiration came from for Satanica was that type of genre of manga. Anyway. We did a tour for the book that we were doing. I think it was called Igrot, right? It was an offshoot of Satanica. And I remember this one stop somewhere in Arizona, Texas, one of those states in that general area. And what we did was, at every place that we went to, right, what we did was pull in front of the store to see what the situation was, right? Again, I had no idea who Glenn Danzig was. I didn't learn who he was until we did our very first store signing at Golden Apple in Los Angeles, and there were just insane amounts of good-looking women, you know, just practically throwing themselves at Glenn, you know? I was like, whoa, this is the kind of guy. Anyway, so we make a stop at this store signing in the Midwest. We pull up to the front of the store, and you can see that there is, what do you call those? It's like a rope line, you know? And we look, and we're like, there is no back entrance to this place, right? And as a kid, I was all of maybe 20, 21 at most. I was like, what's the big deal? I don't care. And, geez Louise. Okay, so I'm trying to remember the exact detail. Okay, so I was like, I kind of shrugged, and they were like, well, I guess we're gonna have to go through the front, right? But before we went to any of these types of, you know, we would always try to catch dinner. Glenn would always want to eat before we go to a store signing. We went into a restaurant, and I remember this distinct thing. He was like, you know, when you order a steak, they ask you, how do you want it cooked, right? And I remember Glenn going like, I want it black and blue. And I thought to myself, like, what the heck is that, you know? So it was like rarer than rare, you know, like it's like flash, I think this is what it is. Like they flash burn just enough of the surface. and then leave it pretty much as bloody as possible. I think that's what it was. Yeah, anyway, that stuck in my mind because of the way he ordered it, you know. So anyway, that took about an hour, right? From the time that we checked out the comic book store, ate dinner, hour and a half, maybe as many as 2, but I don't think that many. We drove back, and now this place is freaking packed. I mean, we're talking, I was not aware enough to like try to count off the amount of people that are now in front of this store, but it was a lot, like a lot. And not only traveling with Glenn came with a lot of benefits, not the least of which, like a personal bodyguard. You know what I mean? And I remember in this particular trip, Glenn had a bodyguard with him at all times, like just making sure he traveled. He was like I think it was a professional stuntman, ex-professional stuntman, whatever it was. And I remember us pulling to the front of this thing and people started going berserk. The manager for all of Erotic was a beautiful, what felt to me, because I'm a little short dude, 6 foot tall woman named Ruthie. Ruthie was gorgeous. And a dominatrix by trade. But anyway, gorgeous. Ruthie must have been like 6'2". She was like huge, super tall. And Ruthie was like a hyper-focused, very sharp, very business-like woman. Like, she's intimidating how tall she was. I mean, the way she conducted herself fully fit how she conducted herself in public. But when in private, she was like a sister. You know what I mean? She's so very protective of me. Because here I am, a 20-year-old kid in their world, you know? And she says to me, Eric, I want you to be right behind me when we go into the store. Okay? Just stay right behind me. Don't worry, right? Glenn is gonna go first, and then, you know, his bodyguard is gonna go with him. What's Glenn's bodyguard's name? Mike? Dennis? Anyway. So, van doors open. We now get, now the full volume of this crowd pumps in, it's like a wall of volume hits me. And I was like, holy shit, right? And so, Glenn goes with Dennis. I think it's Dennis. Jack? Anyway, Glenn goes with his bodyguard into the store first, and people lose their shit and holding up it was awesome because they were holding up my posters and his comics and his t-shirts and his albums and just everything Glenn Danzig related. And then I go with Ruthie. I think that's how it went. I go with Ruthie, but as Ruthie is walking through the store, I look at the rope line and I'm really super impressed. It's a snap of a second, oh my gosh, that is really super cool. But in that second, some guy clears the rope line and starts rushing towards the front door. I guess they just so overwhelmed with joy. They clear the rope line and start rushing towards the front door. And I'm looking at, it's like the world's, there's that Matrix, the world slowed down, where it's and I'm making a noise, and I was like, oh my god, or some stupid shit like that, right? And they're rushing right towards me, and the weirdest thing is, I can remember him, poster in one hand, a Erotic poster in one hand, and some t-shirt or paraphernalia in the other hand. And as I'm finishing that thought, I felt a hand grab me by the shirt and throw me through the double doors at the front of the comic book store. And then and it happens in it ramps down in speed, right? Where everything goes into slow motion, and then just as quickly it ramps back up to speed. Hand grabs me, throws me into the store, and I think Dennis puts his elbow right into that kid's face. to the point where he does like a cartoonish, like his feet go up into the air. And that got another oh my god from me, like, oh my god. Anyway, it has a happy ending. Later on, near the end of the signing, that same kid is in line. He was one of the last few signatures that Glenn signed, and his like entire bridge of his nose is bruised up. He's got like medical tape covering over it, and cotton balls shoved into his nose. And he looked like a mess, just a complete fright. But he was back. He either left to go get medical attention, or they came and gave him medical attention. But that dude never left the line. He got up and got Danzig's signature, my signature, and whoever else was involved during that signing. Anyway, that's one story that I have when I was working with Glenn Danzig. That's pretty funny. King Crow, how are you? Good evening. Rephrase, don't share what the money is spent on your campaign page. Backers don't care. Yeah, okay. I got you. That was awesome. Thanks for the Danzig story. It sounds like those were fun days. I was 21. I didn't know what fun was. I was so hyper-focused in trying to draw comics for Glenn that I'll tell you this, my friends had more fun at Danzig parties than I ever did. Because they were into it, you know? I'm freaking boring as hell. I literally have 4 minutes and then I had to excuse myself and be like, that's my time. I told you a Glenn Danzig story and I bombed on this book that came via mail. I promise next week I'll find a crowdfunded book that I supported, and I will take the time and effort with the same level of passion, although a different sort of emotion. I will lavish upon it my praise, so it won't be like weekly negative book report. Yeah, I mean that's how I know Liam, is through those days. That is how I know Liam Sharp. That is how I met Simon Bisley and a bunch of people that I had no business meeting. I had no reason why I was in some of those conversations, but I got a chance to meet a lot of different people through Glenn Danzig. You want me to do an art fix? I think I'll do an art fix on my own work. Lila Von Frapp, wow, I can't believe what I'm seeing. Eric Kennedy drawing live. I'm going to be drawing live for another, well, I talked a lot, so can I extend this stream for an extra 10-15 minutes so that I can actually get some drawing done? Is that okay? Are you guys looking forward to finally getting rid of me and go on to somebody else's stream where they actually do draw? I tuned into Dave Finch's stream the other day, and I was like, this guy is super productive. I don't know how he does it. And I realized he has Meredith there reading off some of the chat questions, engaging with the chat, so he doesn't have to do it all on his own. I respect that a lot. Husband and wife team. I am in awe and admiration. Like, for instance, if my buddy Michael DiNicola is still on stream, John and I give him so much grief for not drawing when he's streaming. By the way, if you're not already following Mike DiNicola, please do so. You can go to, where is he? Twitch.tv/Michael DiNicola. You can find him there. He streams Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday on both Twitch and on Instagram, on Twitch and on YouTube. Please follow him. Super entertaining guy. Anyway, John and Moore and I give him such a hard time for not drawing while he streams in one of his drawing streams, right? But we only are doing so half jokingly and obviously lovingly, because we know back when we used to stream on Twitch what a difficult, and I'm streaming on YouTube now, what a difficult thing it is to sort of keep a bunch of plates spinning, not the least of which engaging with chat, right? And trying to be somewhat entertaining as you do so. So point is, he hardly gets anything drawn by the time he's done streaming. He streams for like 4 or 5 hours, and that dude may draw like that dude may draw like a leg or a pouch. But I think that's one of the smaller sacrifices that you have to sort of accommodate, if it is a sacrifice at all. One of the things that you have to do when you're streaming is to be as engaging as possible. And I think that's one of the things that I fall short of most of the time, is that if it were up to me, I'd just be head down drawing on this iPad and trying to get as much work done as possible. But that's not very cool, man. You guys are taking your time to chit chat with me and hang out with me. I should engage with chat. Pro streamer. You know who else says that to me? And if you're already not, 2 of my mods are pro streamers themselves. One, I just said, Michael DiNicola. The other one is Bellatrix. So if you're not following, I don't know if Bella's still in chat, but if you're not following Bella, go do so now. She has the same issue where she's like, she paints watercolor stuff, right? And Bella will sometimes have things to finish that week. And offline, we talk about how difficult it is for her to stream and try to get things finished deadline-wise, these commissions, and get them done. Because she's so preoccupied making sure that the chat is having fun and all that kind of stuff. So it is not unique to Mike. I think it's everybody who streams gets hit with that sort of, responsibility. I forget that this canvas isn't that small. It's all of maybe 5 by 2, and that's why I'm like, the marks on this page look weird. They look a little unwieldy, and I realize, it's like, it's holding on to the DPI, plus it's holding on to the measurement, and therefore, of course, it's going to look a little, the marks are going to look a little bit chunky. It's as if I'm drawing on a 6 by 5 card, I love it now that, these are new characters that I sort of ideated upon when I was coming up with what did I want to draw for my first ever crowdfunded miniseries. And in generating them, or in designing them, I only ever had them drawn in sort of like a character sheet version, right? So I'm looking at the reference all the time, and it's really cumbersome, because if you were to ask me to draw like Cyclops or Nightcrawler or any one of the X-Men that I grew up with, I could pretty much either draw it from memory, at least the era of comics that I was collecting them, or I had enough of an opinion about them, having seen them for so long, that I would draw a version of them that would still, I would hope, capture the spirit of those characters. But because I haven't been drawing these characters all that long, sure, it could be argued that I've generated 4 issues worth already, whatever those pages tallied up to, and you would think that I'm comfortable enough to draw them from memory. But there are still times when I can't, right? Where I'm still like, what detail did I use? What kind of detail did I draw there X amount of pages ago, you know? I still haven't memorized my own characters, you guys. That's no bueno. I just discovered your channel. I first discovered you when you were drawing a Grad Satanica in the 90s. Right on, I was just talking about that. Your style has evolved so amazingly since. Thank you very much. It's very, very kind of you. I should shut up and let you focus on your art. Just wanted to say hi. I love your art so much. Thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining us. The 90s was the last great age of creativity. Maybe we're at the start of a new one. Music, movies, and comics were great fun and innovative back then. I agree with that. You got a link for your channel as well, Belle. Hello? Okay, I'm gonna erase this face. I don't like this part. Who was it that said, crowdfunded comics don't get reviewed, don't get called out as a professional courtesy? Is that person still in this room? I kind of want to talk, I kind of want to think around that. I want to learn more about that perspective of like, oh, you don't say anything because it's a professional courtesy. So why is it then that we don't give professionals who work in the mainstream comic book industry that level of courtesy where we don't bomb or call them out for their books? Is what I wanted to ask. Like, why is it a professional courtesy? Is it because they too are in the crowd, and you two are in a crowdfunded space, so you don't say anything to them? And is calling out the right term? Like, I want us all to get on the same page in regards to the terminology. Like, is that what you mean? And if that's the case, then how is it that it's so easily and ready to call out these professionals in mainstream, and yet that same muscle isn't flexed when it's calling out somebody who is in the same space as you? How is that any more professional? I'm curious. I'm not disagreeing. I'm curious to that perspective. Or maybe I'm misunderstanding. I think maybe that's what I want to get at first. Am I misunderstanding the point? Oh, that's you, Jasper. Okay, cool. Yeah, if you can, please expand on that in the next 10 minutes. Edwin, how are you? Thank you for being here so late with us. I may be signing off in about 5 minutes or so. I'm just trying to get a little bit of sketching in, finally, after talking for close to an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes. Forgive me, chat. Thank you so much for bearing with me as I went into my tirade. My hopefully passion-fueled tirade. I hope that didn't shine an unfavorable light in my conduct as a professional. Because we're all friends in the chat, just my personal opinion, I'm all for being constructive. I'd rather celebrate the good, plus not discourage those who are finding their own voice. Many are first timers. I get it. I understand. And that makes total sense. That actually says a lot about you, dude, which is awesome. But you'd rather not use the sort of energy. I guess that's the best way to do it. You'd rather not use that energy to put more, what do you call it, negativity out there, or yeah, I get it. That's kind of cool. I think to your point though, Jasper, I'm thinking about it now. I'm sorry if I'm going quick, but I like thinking about these premises that people introduce to me if it's something that I haven't considered for myself. So I was really thinking about your thing where you're like, I'm all for being constructive. I'd rather celebrate the good. I think there's a way to deliver feedback to somebody. I don't necessarily want to say that it's you calling them out, right? I think there's a way that you can deliver feedback to somebody in hopes of I'm saying you in the general, not necessarily you should, right? Like in hopes of that if it were coming from a space of friendliness, that the person who's being criticized could internalize it and not be threatened by it. You know what I mean? Not become defensive about it. Does that make sense? I guess it's in everything is in context, right? Like if you don't know them that well, then it might not be appropriate nor in your place to be giving them that sort of critical feedback. I guess I don't know. I think it's different for everyone. But yeah, I appreciate that insight, dude. That's awesome. Thank you. Actually, me and Michael DiNicola were talking about this the other day, in which he's specific about who he takes feedback from, and then based on that feedback, how he makes it actionable. There's plenty of times, and I think just the internet is just rife with this kind of stuff, right? Where it's like people are at or they feel like they're at liberty to give random unsolicited feedback, and one of the muscles that you have to develop is to say, thank you very much, I appreciate that, but not necessarily be feel compelled that you have to accommodate it right away, or if at all, right? Mike and I were talking about this, I think it was as recently as yesterday, 2 days ago, where we were talking about like some people you just kind of have to say thank you very much and then long-term brush off. But then you develop it's those with whom you've developed a relationship in which you really take their feedback and insight to heart, and then it starts to tear down from there, TIER, tear down from there, like, well, who is this person, and what does their body of work look like, and how legitimate is it? Are they even executing on the thing that they're telling me to get better at? Things like that. It's difficult when you don't know folks face to face. In this case, some are sensitive to criticism, for sure. There's the guy I was talking about this entire time. Rob, you walked in just as I'm about to walk out. What's going on? Rob is my one of my I would say, Rob, you correct me if this sounds weird. You tell me I'm full of shit. But Rob is one of my most valued friends. New valued friends. My wartime consigliere. Because Rob doesn't give it to me. Crooked. He gives it to me straight. And he doesn't ease it in. He does it with no Vaseline. He just gives me his opinion. Yeah, I'm looking deeply and longingly into your eyes, Rob, in a very cozy, in a very small, cozy Italian restaurant with a table that's barely big enough for two. You've poured the wine. I've been twirling my hair for 20-30 minutes now, and you're still not getting the hint. Can I tell you what's great about this? Can I flash this on screen really, really quickly, which is like the weirdest way? I don't know if any of that is clickable at all, but here's the point. I have mentioned a good group, a very small select group of people on this stream who have come by and have, who I also have a good professional and personal working relationship with. That my mod, Belle, probably has this in a folder, Rob's crowdfunding campaign information, because she doesn't want to be caught behind the 8 ball of not knowing who I am saying, hey, if you're not already going to see to support Replicator and Rob Arnold, please go to this thing. And Belle is I can just, God bless her. I can just see her like having an anxiety attack of like, first of all, trying to find who I'm talking about, and secondly, trying to find their relevant information so that she can put them up on on stream like a good mod. So thank you so much for that, Belle. You are awesome. What hair? You finally see me in my true form. You're already drawing the Eric Robb fanfic comic. You don't need to draw it. You're experiencing it right now. Oh, so stupid. It's getting late. I'm 20 minutes over. This should be good enough. I'm going to change this face one more time before I ink it. Can I tell you guys just one other story that happened to me this week? And I wouldn't do this typically because I am fully committed to trying to get Arcathena out the door. At least issue 5. I'm on issue 5 now, you guys. I'm doing the beats, the issue beats. Anyway, out of nowhere, a guy whose work I'll give you full transparency, whose work that I did not appreciate back when he was going hot and heavy in regards to mainstream comics. I did not have an appreciation for them, their longevity, their sort of business acumen, and ultimately their drawing until much, much later, to which I am a huge proponent of it now. Out of nowhere, Rob Liefeld messages me and says, "Hey Eric, I'm really sorry. I completely slipped my mind. I didn't know I didn't ask you before. I didn't know why I didn't bother asking you before. It didn't even dawn on me to ask you to be part of this. But is there any way that you can help me ink a page out of G.I. Joe, or it's this out of the Snake Eyes book that he's doing for IDW?" It's completely had slipped it blew my mind to think of first of all, I slipped Rob Liefeld's mind, and then secondly, he would be kind enough to ask me to come and help. Now again, typically in the scenario in which I'm in the middle of production for Arcathena, I just said, "Well, thank you very much, Rob. I really can't do it right now. I'm in the middle of something." As a matter of fact, I did say that. I said, I am so swamped with work, and on top of that, work, that I don't know if I could do it on time for you. So I really appreciate you saying, thinking of me, and obviously, having the opportunity and the accommodation, or the consideration, excuse me. But I don't think I'm going to be a good fit. He's like, "Totally understand you have 9 days to ink one page." And I'm like, 9 days to ink one page? What kind of shitlord artist would I be if I could not ink a page in 9 days, So I said, okay, fine, let's, now I'll do it. I think I could do it. So he sends me the page, really super simple page, not heavy on background at all, not heavy on detail or whatever, what have you. And I see it, and immediately the flood of I have so many fucking questions. I have so many fucking questions about how do I do this so that I'm not pissing off Rob Liefeld. So first, I set the right expectation. There's a couple questions that was super technical, like the way he ruled his page. It kind of tapered at the bottom, and I said, is this how you mean to do this? Do you want it to taper? And he's like, no, just the way I laid it out. I wasn't being very conscious of exactly what those panels were. They're supposed to be a rectangle ultimately, perpendicular at the corners. Okay, cool. And then I said, there was, again, another technical question was this person, this bad guy, this character that Snake Eyes is fighting, he's bigger, right? The scale, this is the right scale. He's massive in comparison to Snake Eyes. Yep. And then I got to the whole, I tried to set up the right sort of expectation to be Rob, I'm really super heavy-handed when it comes to inking people. As a matter of fact, I have the curse of that Kevin Nolan curse where regardless of who's penciling, you're gonna see Kevin Nolan isms. There's inkers out there that disappear when they ink somebody, they pay they honor the penciler's line so much that it's like you never really get lost. People are good at that, at like professional inkers like Scott Williams, you know what I mean? There's gonna be little bits of Scott Williams in there, but because he's such a trained pro at that job, it doesn't matter who he inks, and you know, that person's style still comes through. Sandra Hope is another one of those, you know, really super professional inkers. Basically everybody that I worked at Wildstorm. I tell Rob, I'm like, if you have me ink this, I'm so fucking heavy-handed, you know? And he says, Eric, don't worry about it. And he set my mind at ease by sending me other pages that he asked people to come and help him ink it. And in a way, I felt so honored, because the samples that he had sent me of these other artists that he's working with are like amazing, you know. And I'm not at liberty to talk about it, so don't ask. But anyway, so I saw those pages that have come in from those artists, and I was like, oh, I get it. Rob isn't going to be too tough on me if I do a little bit of departure from what he put. And so I inked it. And I sent it to him, and I'm like, dude, I know you gave me X amount of days. I'm trying to give you X amount of days of those 9 back. I think it was 9, maybe 8. So just in case this sucks, you can go and find somebody to re-ink this page much more to your liking, you know. So if I give them 4, like, you know, if he gave me 9 or 8 and I give it back to him in 4, he has 4 days to really find somebody who can fill that spot and basically turn that page around, even though it's under the gun, and be closer to what he wanted. Anyway, that was fun. That was a lot of fun, and as soon as it's available, you know, I sent it to him. He was very positive. He was like, man, this is cool, this is great, and I wanted to hype it up a little bit. And I said, hey, is there any way that I can put this on my social media? And he's like, don't put any finished pages up, because obviously this thing still needs to go through the proper channels of the publisher and yada yada. As soon as they announce it, as soon as we put any hype behind it, you know, I'm sure as soon as they do, I'll ask him again to see if I can show you guys what the ink page looks like. But that was a shitload of fun. So Rob, if you ever come to this channel and check this out, thank you so much for including me. All right, that's it. It's almost 10:30. I'm going to tell you to go to my website, and if you haven't already, please sign up for my newsletter. You can go to ericcanetti.com and wait just a second. Prompt will come up. That newsletter is going to ask you for an email. That email is going to get you automatically pooled, and leading into my campaign, I will draw 3 names in which you guys are going to get. Those 3 names are going to get the prototype versions of the statue of a bust of this main character that I'm drawing here now, called Devon Deluxe. And you will be updated on behind the scenes stuff as I'm working on this project once you're signed up for that newsletter, as well as maybe video clips of me drawing, just all the kinds of goodies that you would typically not see on my social media. Speaking of social media, if you're not already following me, I'm on Instagram under instagram.com/Eric Canetti. I'm also on Twitter, more so now than before. I used to be on Instagram almost exclusively because I think Twitter is a steaming cesspool, and yet I've met a bunch of amazing people there. So if you're not already on there, please follow me, twitter.com/Eric Canetti. If you're interested in getting any of my original art, you can go to Essential, I sound like I'm drunk or I had a stroke, but essentialsequential.com/Eric Canetti. I think it's /Eric Canetti. EssentialSequential.com. There's a drop-down list of artists. You can find copies of my sketchbooks there, as well as my original art. If nothing of mine suits you, there are a ton of amazing artists that my buddy Jason Stractor represents. I'm sure somewhere in there is something to your liking. So please go check that out. Support the artist that he represents. We'd really appreciate it. I think that's it. If you, we'll do this again next week, right? Tuesdays, 8 p.m. Pacific time. Other than that, thank you so much for everybody showing up. I appreciate your time. You guys have a great evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I guess I'll see you again next week. Okay, that's it. Good night. I gotta pee so bad.